This is the Grapple of Your Eye podcast, episode 15, Trevor Birmingham. Okay, and welcome today to the Grapple of Your Eye podcast, episode 15, where my guest today is the globally traveling coach and competitor of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Trevor Birmingham. Welcome to the show, sir. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Thanks for inviting me in, Brett. It's really appreciated.
No problem at all, sir. No problem at all. Now, just as we start then, I'll give you the same question I'll give everyone else. Where did martial arts start for you? What caught your eye? What did you see? What made you want to take up something to begin with?
Okay, right. So it's going back. I'm going back now, probably to about 6.5 years old. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was a child, all right. Basically, okay, I wanted to be a stuntman. So that is what I wanted to be when I was basically an adult.
Cool.
So I wanted to become a stuntman because I used to watch obviously a lot of action movies on TVs and stuff, and I used to think, oh, that looks really, really cool, and I'd love to be able to do that, right? So my actual dad said to me, okay, right, he basically said, well, I was thinking about getting you into doing judo then, because obviously in judo, there's a lot of break falling and stuff like that, and it will teach you how to break your fall. So if that's what you want to do when you're older, this will be like a good base or a good start. Okay, so
yeah, definitely.
So my dad found an ad in the paper, okay, for judo at Fleming Park Judo Club, and then I started when I was about 7.5. Yeah, but obviously well, I had influences as well. So obviously I used to watch Bruce Lee, and I used to watch other things like some of the early kind of movies and stuff like that. So I was a mixture of watching Bruce Lee and stuff like that, kind of pushed me a little bit to obviously, to gave me the enthusiasm to want to do it as well. Does that make any sort of sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. So from there then, was it about 7 years old when you started judo then?
Yeah, I'll say between 7 and 7.5 years old. Yeah.
Cool. So what can you remember about that first walk into the dojo and seeing? Because obviously watching it on TV is one thing, but when you're actually in there and you can see people getting thrown around in front of you, do you have any memories of that sort of first walk in or those early memories?
I don't actually have the memory of me actually first walking in there, but I do have the memories of roughly when I first started. Does that make any sort of sense?
Right. Yeah, so yeah.
I remember going on the mat and stuff like that, and basically right at the start and stuff, and I was finding it a little bit of a struggle, to be fair. Actually learning some of the techniques and that. So my dad, what I do remember is my dad used to bring me back, and then he used to go through what we actually done in the class that day, and then he kind of used to go, because I used to struggle, really, really struggle at first when being a youngster, picking stuff up. And then he kind of went through things with me, okay, at home. And then I kind of to get it sunk in. And then basically after doing that, once I got a little bit of a base of a few techniques, I started putting it into practice actually at the club I was at. I started kind of overtaking some of the other kids quite quick.
That's good. Sounds a good way of doing it. What about competitions then? There's a lot of competitions for young judokas out there. Can you remember your first one? Was it long after you started?
I do remember I was involved in the club championships. Okay, my first. Cool. I remember getting a silver medal in that in the club championships within the club that I was in. Okay, at the time, my coach was called Mick. He was actually named Mick Russell. So he's my coach from youth. And he used to push us kids really, really tough. Back in those days, being on the mat as a youngster was really tough. So we used to the training was really, really tough. Not like it is now. I think nowadays you have to kind of like, you have to be careful what you're doing with the youngsters and stuff like that. But we had it really tough back in the day. We really, really hard. And yeah, and I remember, so to actually, there was a lot of young, good kids in the club. So for me to actually get a silver, I remember as a kid, I was really pleased with that club championship medal, because there was for me, I was inspired with a lot of the other kids in there to actually get through some of the other kids at the time. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
No, excellent. What sort of things were you training in then that you couldn't do nowadays? Was it just hard drilling and hard rolling?
Yeah, it's more the fact that we used to get really pushed. Not I wouldn't say so much on that on the beginners class, but as we started working, as I started getting into the judo a little bit more, like I remember it's really strict back in the day. You weren't allowed off the mat. You couldn't drink water. We were really pushing the training sessions. We do a lot of It was be really physical as well. We do a lot of exercises and stuff like that. You couldn't sit out. Do you know what I mean? It was like we were
Yeah.
really, really pushed. And I think nowadays, I don't think you can really, you couldn't get, you just can't get away with that kind of thing with children now.
Times have changed, haven't they? Yeah.
But we had it really, really tough. I mean, I remember there was being on the mat back in the day. If I didn't eat my dinner like 3 or 4 hours before, I'd always throw up in the session. There's times where I had to go run off the mat as a kid. My dad used to pick me up and run me down the toilet so I'd be sick. Like it was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah, we were pushed to the limits. Yeah, but I don't actually think that was a bad thing for me. For me, I'm saying that it's a good thing for kids now, but for me, it's good because I think it pushes you and it gives you discipline, and I think that's
No,
what's.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think that's something nowadays that does kind of, it is a balance because you're there for everyone, but there should be a sort of, or maybe we need to start doing special classes where you're allowed to push a little bit harder and the parents can sign a waiver beforehand or something. Yeah, no, I know what you mean though. So you are developing your judo, you're starting to do tournaments. Where does that take you? Because as you're getting older, the tournaments are getting bigger and so are
Yeah,
the prizes.
yeah. Well, so as a child, I basically in the judo. So I remember I won. I've won the Hampshire Judo Championships a numerous amount of times, and then I won this. As I got that little bit older, I won the Southern Area Judo Championships at Crystal Palace.
Hmm.
I remember winning. I think I won that a few times as well, like a good few times. And then after that, so if you win in the Southern areas, then you can get to go to the British Championships. And yeah, I remember I won a couple of silver medals at the British Judo Championships at Crystal Palace as youth, under 18s, and yeah, and then I got another medal in the under 21s British Judo Championships, which got me into the British Judo team. Okay, at the age of like 18. And yeah. So it kind of went on from there, really. Yeah.
So when you made the British judo team, did you notice any changes in approach or training compared to what you'd been doing before? Were there different techniques or different mindsets or anything you sort of had to adapt to?
I think really, to actually get into the squad, really, you're going all over the country and you're fighting in a lot of ranking events anyway. So you kind of you lose a lot of your kind of like social time, because if you don't kind of like train in the evenings, and it takes a lot of your time training in the evenings, okay, a lot for basically for a lot of those events, you're pushing yourself hard to get to those events anyway. So and then obviously when you get to the point where if you get into the squad, get into a squad or something like that, you're obviously you're training with other guys and stuff. And I think everyone's kind of doing the same type of training, but obviously there'd be guys that push it more, like might do a bit more running. They might be fitter. They might be more physical than some of the other guys. You get what I mean?
Yeah. So,
Basically.
what was it like then when you made the British team? Where did that take you? What did you have to do once you're on that team? What sort of competitions were there?
Yeah, so basically, I remember I went to an event in Belgium where that's the first time I'd become an international with the British judo team. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, and I remember getting my flag, okay, with the British judo team. So that was when I become an international with the British judo team. Do you know what? So I did that. Then when I was actually in the squad, then it wasn't long after. Okay, I started mixing up, and then I started doing like sport jiu jitsu. So I didn't actually, I wouldn't actually say I spent a lot of my younger younger adulthood, okay, doing judo, okay. I did a lot of training, but then I kind of like started mixing up the arts as I got into like my
Okay.
my like
How,
mid, yeah.
for anyone listening, what's the difference between sports jiu-jitsu and well, judo and jiu-jitsu as people know it? What's the main differences?
Well, sport jiu-jitsu is a mixture of kickboxing, judo, and jiu-jitsu on the ground. So the objective of that, okay, is basically you strike. You got strikes, punches, and kicks to the body and the head, okay, and
Hmm.
once you grip, you can throw your opponent down to the ground, and then obviously you got arm locks, strangles, wrist locks, and leg locks on the ground, okay, and you have a certain amount of time to actually get a submission, and then if you didn't get it within 30 seconds, you'd be put back onto your feet. Then you go back into the striking. So you get points for striking, okay? You get points for a throw, and then a submission finish. You'd get like a submission finish, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously with the judo is throws, and on the ground is pins. You'd win by pin,
Hmm.
and you could win by an ippon, which is 10 points in judo, and then obviously you got arm locks and strangles with judo as well.
Yeah.
Okay. See, most people understand the rules of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, where obviously you can get points for a takedown. Obviously your submission is a finish. Yeah.
Hmm. So did you find then, obviously with the sports jiu-jitsu, there's a lot more, there's a striking element now introduced where you've mainly been sort of the grappling on the judo side. How did you cope with that? Was that something you had to train differently for and adapt to, or?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say so. Going back like in the very early part of the 90s. I would say like so going back in the early part of the 90s. I there's another. So one of my other judo coaches. Okay, at the time I was training with down in Winchester. His name called Dave Kavanagh. He introduced me. Okay, to the sport jiu-jitsu. So he took me up to
Yeah.
train up to the north of England to do some squad training when he was going up. So I went up with it, and there's a lot of squad. There was a lot of national squad players on there, and I started going, and I was actually at the time I was getting hit quite hard by a few of these guys. Okay, but once I obviously got gripped up, I was actually putting the guys over quite easy. So I thought I could possibly do this, but I thought I need to adapt and change what I'm actually doing, and maybe learn to do a little bit of striking. So I started actively looking at a few places down in my local town of Romsey. And I remember starting like doing a little bit of kung fu at the time, okay, and it was like kung fu stroke kickboxing was a club, and just learning a little bit of basic striking because it was kind of close to me and it fitted in. And then before long, I started looking at other stuff. And so I started looking at other forms. So I met
Yeah.
one of the guys from the British Sport Jiu Jitsu team. His name's Gary Turner, and I started regularly going up, training up in Frimley, and doing kickboxing with him once or twice a week. Yeah. So and then obviously I picked it up from there, and and then kind of like added that to what I was actually doing. So that really made a hell of a difference because obviously I started learning like ranges and stuff like that, and
Stuff like, yeah.
yeah. So that kind of changed what I was doing then. So if it wasn't for actually doing that, I wouldn't be allowed to actually play the game, do the game.
There we go. Okay, and so you've got the sports jiu-jitsu and your judo going on now. You're starting to compete more around the world as well now. How is that as you're getting older? That's coming into it. How is the traveling and the competing? Because I mean, we all know like a few hours in a car somewhere can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but when it's like a long flight to somewhere else to then compete as well, how were you finding that? How was that? How was
Wow.
that for you?
Well, obviously, so basically that was actually fun. I'll just have to take you back a step. So obviously,
Oh yeah,
I basically after learning the kickboxing and stuff like that, I won the trials and got into the national squad. Okay, with the British Sport Jiu Jitsu team. So I've been
okay,
well. So I got into the squad. I made the squad, and then I basically got selected to go to a world basically a world championships in 2000, which I won the ISJs. Okay, which is I won a 28-man division. Okay, and it was actually in the UK. So I won that. I won that event. But going back to like what you were saying, it's actually traveling was actually really good fun because back in the earlier days, we kind of like I went with a team of people. So you got
yeah,
people. Jeff Lawson, Gary Turner, Michelle Holt. She's another good female judoka. She's really really good. You got Gary Turner. Okay, everyone knows him, Smiler. Okay, you got Jeff Lawson. So we had there's a load of guys from the north. We had a good team of us. So traveling all together, like we had an absolute blast of breathe. Like such fun. I'm not joking. It was just like from the moment all us guys were together, it was just a blast. So traveling with the British Sport Jiu Jitsu team, like back in the day, was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. We had there's so many stories. I mean, I'll tell you a story, right? So we was on. I think we were coming back from Canada. Okay, 2004, where we won the world team championships, right? And Jeff Wilson, so he starts doing this Dalek impression, exterminate, like this, right? Okay, right. It's so funny. He was doing it on the plane, right? And the whole plane was absolutely crying. So Gary Turner, I think he's gone to London about a week later, and some guy recognises him and say, "Weren't you the guys who were doing the Dalek impression on the plane coming back?" So yeah, so it's just little things like that, really. I mean, it's if you're kind of listening, it might not be funny, but to us, it's like we had a blast. It was really really funny at the time. Yeah, we had some really good times.
That sounds good. Sounds good. So where does that take you next then? So is there a balance that are you doing as much judo as sports jiu-jitsu, or is
Yeah,
one taking over from the other?
yeah. So I was doing judo events at the time, so I was probably finding ranking events. I think I went to Florida in 2000 around that time. In 2000, and I was doing judo and jiu-jitsu at the time, sport jiu-jitsu and judo. And I won the world. I won the Millennium Open at the World Disney Sports Complex. So it's like a BJJ event,
Yeah.
a jiu-jitsu event, a very early jiu-jitsu event. So I remember winning the gold there in the World Disney Sports Complex, and the next day fighting in an international judo tournament, and I got silver in that the next day. So I kind of like at that point I was kind of like crossing over and still doing bits of judo, okay, and still doing bits of judo, and then kind of going into a bit of like grappling and sport. It's those early days where I was really mixing up. I was going down to Bournemouth doing shoe fight with Phil Norman, okay, back in the early 90s, okay. It was like a real transition period, I would say. Yeah.
What are your memories? And because it sounds like very much you're sort of on the ahead of the game of what was just about to come. Because obviously in '93 we had the UFC arrived with the Gracie family and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and it sounds like you were already cross training before that. So can you remember when that arrived and what the sort of the impact of that was on the scene at the time?
Yeah, so I remember fighting some of these sport jiu-jitsus, and you'd get Brazilian teams Brazilian teams coming over and doing the sport jiu-jitsu, and so obviously mixing up it's the same thing with the kickboxing, judo, and jiu-jitsu, and a lot of the Brazilian teams were actually very very good. Like obviously some of those guys were ahead as well. So but yeah, so they would be like different teams, and I mean. Because I was mixing up stuff then, I mean, I think the judo gave me an advantage, to be fair, because it's such a strong, obviously being an Olympic sport, and it's such a strong base, and it's quite a good. And then obviously doing submission wrestling down in Bournemouth on a Sunday morning with Phil Norman. Okay, on a regular basis, we used to go down every Sunday morning. And mixing up some of these different things. I mean, I kind of like started early, and then and I think it kind of like gave me a little bit. I would probably say a little bit of a head start. Yeah, I would say. Definitely the judo and the submission wrestling with Phil. Was a really good start for the grappling side of it, yeah, 100%. And then obviously doing the kickboxing with Gary Turner in Frimley, that was another good thing. So it kind of like, yeah, so I would say a little bit of an edge, yeah, I would say.
Did you get drawn into the rise of MMA as it would become known? Because I know like different events started appearing around, like anything. Once the big one starts, the smaller shows start trying to cash in on it.
Yeah, I think I had a little bout of fighting some MMA in about middle of 2000. So I mean I won some pro bouts. I did a fair bit of amateur stuff, and and then kind of like, to be honest with you, for me it was just a little bit of a phase, really. I was a little bit bored, and I wanted to try some different areas out. I don't think I really wanted to get into. I just a little bit bored, and I just wanted to give it a go. Like I said, I won some pro bouts, did a lot of amateur stuff. at the time I was taking some other guys around. We were doing like cross training and taking some of the other guys to some amateur events around the UK and stuff like this. So yeah, and then obviously, and then from that, after that, I kind of like eventually got myself into a little bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu from there, really. After
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was going to say. Is that what led to then the BJJ as it is? So I'm just playing with my light. My light keeps going out and I'm going in the darkness. So yeah, that's where the BJJ kind of came into it in a more permanent way.
Well, yeah, well, with the BJJ, this is another thing. So obviously, I met Alex D'Souza, okay, in Bournemouth, at the Bulldog Gym back in the early days, okay, right. When I was training with Phil Norman, okay, back in the same gym, and I think Alex had a jiu-jitsu class there.
Yeah.
That was I started training, doing bits of jiu-jitsu, here and there on his classes here and there, but I never took it really seriously. I was just like
Yeah.
bouncing, like literally just bouncing in and out. So I'd done that for quite a few years. I just bounced in and out. I never really because I had other things to do. Like I was doing the Sport Jiu Jitsu up to about 2010. So
Yeah.
up to about 210. So I was bouncing in and out of other stuff. But yeah, then so obviously I met Alex at an early, but basically in the early days, and then yeah, and then kind of like started practicing little bits and pieces, and then took it a little bit more serious later on.
Okay then. So then when you did take it serious later on, was the urge there obviously to compete as well in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, yeah. So what it was is I think it was about, just trying to count myself back now. So I would say I go back to about 2011. I'd say about
Yeah.
then. Okay. I started in a gym down in Taunton, and I just wanted to do some jiu-jitsu, do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I started training with Alex on a more regular basis, and then yeah, just started dipping down to Bournemouth, started training with him on a regular basis and stuff, and then I remember, I think my first tournament I did for was the Brighton Open, and obviously being a black belt at judo, he put me to a blue belt, obviously because I can't compete at white belt.
Yeah, can't be white. Yeah.
Okay. So I went and won the Brighton. I think it was the Brighton Open. Yeah, had a fight there. I won that, and then just thought, it's very, for me, that was very, very much very similar to judo. I think I won with an armbar,
Yeah.
and then, you know what? Then I did a few of his events, and then I think I won. Then I went up to the English Open, and I won the English Open, and then after that, I thought, oh, this is quite cool. Because at the time, I didn't really look at the competition as it's all serious, and I need to do it. It was just fun. It's just a
Yeah.
fun thing. And then I think I booked the Europeans straight after that, and then I won the Europeans at blue belt, like I think it was like Master 3 in the Masters, and yeah, and then it kind of like went from there really, and then it kind of was like got hooked and got the bug, and then just started doing more and more tournaments.
Because now you're competing regularly at an international level. I mean, how did that sort of build up then? Is it just more and more tournaments, and then the urge to push yourself, or was it like a challenge, or what made you sort of take that step further? Because a lot of people kind of get to a point and they think, yeah, that'll do, but you obviously went way beyond that.
I get bored, Brett. Okay, so for me, right? Okay, this is how I kind of like this. I see things in a few different ways. So, number one, I get bored quite easily. Okay, so I need
Mhm.
to set challenges, and I need to set myself. So, if I say I'm going to do something, if I don't book it and do it, I won't put my heart and soul into it. So I need to book it, okay, and then I'll train and I'll do it, okay.
Yeah,
Number two, okay. Obviously, I teach jujitsu and stuff like this, okay. And before I say this, I'm not putting down any coaches that don't compete, but I'm a firm believer that if you're teaching something, you should have actively be doing it, or you should have done it. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
yeah, yeah,
So I like to kind of like push it on that sense. Why? Because I've got a fit, able body. So yeah, I like to use it. So I'm fit and able. So why not? So yeah. So it's a few things. So I get bored. So I kind of like set myself like targets and goals. and also if I'm coaching, I think that I should be doing it or have done it. Okay, if I'm teaching it, okay, that's me personally. Okay, and yeah, really. So, but yeah, so and I set myself target and goals as well. So I might. So if I go and do an event and I haven't done that well in it, okay, I get unfinished business. So I will go back until I try to win it or I do it, and yeah, and I will go back. So yeah, so I don't like to feel like to leave things unfinished. So yeah, so if it doesn't go well, I eventually go back until I get my results or however I feel that it's good for me.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah, and then you can finally tick it off. You mentioned about coaching. Then, when did the coaching bug bite you? When did that sort of element come into it?
You know what? So I've been teaching, doing fitness work and martial arts since 2002. Okay, so it's just like I'm a plumber by trade, right? A plumber by trade. So I school, and then did an apprenticeship, and I'm basically I went to college, and then went on, obviously went to in people's houses and did a proper apprenticeship, and got that. But I kind of I got out of that, and I just I don't know, it just wasn't for me, and I enjoy being involved in sport and doing martial arts and stuff. So in 2002, I went back to college, and I think at the time it was called Premier Training, and I did like it was basically like a free, I think it was like a intense fitness course, and it cost about $4,000 at the time, and back in about 2002. So I did and basically started did a fitness course, and then started training clients doing fitness work, and then people started saying to me, "Oh, can you show me how to do these martial arts and do this and do this? I want to learn how to do this." So it kind of just evolved, because originally I was doing it just to do fitness, okay, not actual martial art classes. And then I've got pulled into it. It's not something that I was aiming to do. I've been I'm being more pulled into it. Yeah. So if I would have said to you that was my aim and that was my goal, it wasn't. I was just so I basically started at different gyms, and I was going to people's houses and stuff. And then so I had a few people said, "Oh, can you show me a bit of self-defense?" And I said, "I'll do this and do that." And then I'd have calls from people, and then obviously it's getting around that I could do this and can't do that. And then before I know it, I was helping out on classes, running classes, and then I started setting up classes. It just evolved. It wasn't really something it wasn't something I was actually aiming to actually do. It's just, yeah, it just kind of, it developed. It naturally developed itself. Yeah.
And how did you find coaching from a one-to-one session to then coaching to a whole class can be, and obviously over when you've got set classes and a curriculum sort of thing to deliver. How did you find that? What were the challenges there?
Well, I think really it's for me, if you're teaching one person, okay, or if you're teaching 20, if you're delivering the same type of thing, okay, you'll probably show it on one person anyway, okay. And then you walk around in trying to get everyone to actually do the techniques that you're actually doing. If you're doing it with one person, for me, it doesn't really feel too much different if you're doing it with one person or 20. Obviously, if you're doing it with one person, and there's no one else, you've got no one to show on. So it actually can be harder just trying to teach one person than what you've got if you've got 20, 30 people, because you've got a body then to actually show it on. Do you get what I mean? To a group of people.
Yeah.
So it can actually be easier teaching a group than what it actually can be giving your energies to one person, I think, sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. And you went from sort of coaching in other gyms and that to then setting your own one up at Neon with Achilles, who we had on in a previous episode, who does the wrestling side. How did that come about? What made you want to sort of set out and do your own established gym?
Well, like I said, I've been involved in different gyms from about, I would say, 2002. So from about, I've been working in different. So I've run different classes and stuff like that. Literally from about 2002, 2003. Started doing bits of groups and stuff like that. So, and I've worked in different gyms. I think I met Achilles down at one of the other local gyms I was at in Southampton, and we kind of like hit it off. And he's a really nice guy, and we kind of like, I think our mindsets are very similar, and we both, there's certain things we wanted to do, and we worked. And before I even come down here, we both kind of knew what we wanted to do, and I think we kind of like gelled really well, and kind of like hit it off. So with his attitude and my attitude, we work really well together. So opening up Neon was for us like a natural progression. It wasn't something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a chore. It was something naturally kind of like happened. So and I think for us it was really important that we actually did it, because I mean where we were before wasn't working for us. So it's like it was like the next step. Does that make any sort of sense?
Yeah. I mean, what sort of challenges did you find in opening up your own place? So, because obviously one thing I know from obviously going there, I mean, it wasn't long till COVID appeared. So you opened up a gym just at the time when just before COVID kicked in. But before that, obviously, what challenges do you have if you're opening a new place and you're walking into a building? What did you have to do? What did you need to put in place for it to be ready for what you wanted?
Oh, there was many. To be fair, the list doesn't stop really. To be fair, right? Yeah, it doesn't stop.
The main things.
First of all, obviously, we had to get it. We had to get the building, okay, into a point where you could actually use it. So it was we need basically gutted the room out. Okay, we had to frame the room, build the room. Okay, obviously, then we had to look at getting obviously insurance, and then it was just basically it was advertisement, all the normal stuff you would get, obviously.
Yeah.
Opening up a place. We got it all functioning. We did this. We smashed it all out and got it all done over a Christmas period actually, and got it all functioning and running. And then started in the Jan. 3 months later, COVID kicked in, and we were shut down. Yeah, and it was busy. We were busy from the word go. For being a new place. A lot of members have followed me over from where I was previously, so it was actually a really good vibe, and it was functioning really well for a gym that's only been functioning 3 months. It was growing really quickly. Okay, had a really good vibe in there, and there was a lot of hurdles still we were working to get through. Okay, but when COVID kicked in, it just literally cut it dead, and it was such a shame as well, because it was a big step for us, okay, to go over there, okay, even though it was like it was formed naturally, okay, and it was a step to do, and there was a lot of things put into place, but it was quite it was gutting for us, really, to be fair. And obviously there was a lot, and it not just us, a lot of the other people had gyms back in that time as well. It's heartbreaking for a lot of people, because a lot of people didn't recover from it, but we recovered. And then work forward from that. But it was tough. Yeah, it was really, really tough. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because now we're years past that now, and Neon is still going. Now, what's it like today? How are you feeling about today, and with how everything's going at your club?
I mean, right, we've grown our kids programs. The kids program we've got has grown really, really well, and we've had a lot of success with so Achilles has got started to grow. Some of the kids come through on the wrestling and stuff like that. We've had success with some of the kids going to wrestling tournaments and stuff. That's like, he's done an amazing job with them. I've got a few youngsters that do really well. I've seen a couple of the lads just won the IBJJF London International. Okay, so and we've got a lot of kids that turn up that are not so competitive, but you know, they've all formed a bond in that, and they kind of like they've enjoyed the environment, you know. So we've done well to kind of like push it forward in that, and the adults that we've got there, obviously, you know, we've kept a lot of the adults from early days. We've had a lot of new people come in, people go, you know, same thing as you get in any other gym. But we've got like a steady base of people, and we're always looking to try to improve and stuff like that, improve the gym and stuff, you know. But it's the actual gym. that we've actually got. It's not massive, but at the moment it serves its purpose, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what targets and goals have you got for your future? So both as a competitor and as a coach and a gym owner.
I expect as gym owners, we're always looking to expand. So we might look at other areas and expand out. Okay, kind of like we've talked about this. So that's a potential, definitely.
Yeah.
Competition. Do you know what? I never say never to competition. If there's something touches me and I think I want to have a go at that, I will have a go. I mean, there's the Sport Jiu Jitsu World Championships, okay, in Thailand at the end of the year. So I'm potentially looking at that because I won the master. I picked up a world title at the end of last year, okay, in Greece. So I might look at going into Thailand, okay, towards the end of the year. That's possibilities with that.
Yeah.
I always go to the Europeans each year, okay, for the IBJJF Europeans. Quite enjoy that. On the door, Portugal, France is basically for us. That's on the doorstep. So it's not like you're going long haul. So I always look at that's just a quick jump across the water. So I always do that. But there's loads of other things. Last year I went to Japan and I fought in the Asian Sport Jiu Jitsu World Championships. Okay, and I got a silver in the no gi and a bronze in the gi. So Japan was amazing. The culture was like, I thought it was really incredible, and it was flew into Tokyo, and had a look around Tokyo. Checked out the Samurai Museum. Went and saw sites and stuff. Went to the Kodokan, visited the Kodokan Judo Club, where that place is actually insane. It's on different levels, and it goes up on different floors, so the place is huge. That's incredible. So if anyone's in Tokyo, I literally you've got to go and check this place out. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, if you like seeing massive,
that's where it all began, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
yeah, that's something to go and see. But there's, you know what? There's loads of other events I like to do. I fought in the World Pro quite a few times now. Okay, so I'm trying to look to do other things. Like I said, if I conquer my goals, I always like to try and do something else. Stuff really, Brett. So so I never say never. If I if I get bored, I'll try something else. I might go back to an event, possibly go back to Australia at some point, fighting the Pan Pacifics. It's endless, really. It never really stops. I've got to do what I feel right is what is what's right for me at the time.
Yeah, definitely. So if anyone is listening to this and wants to get hold of you for competitions or training or whatever else, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
So basically, just had the website built by yourself. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Which is okay. Is Trevor.Birmingham. Okay. Which is if you can get hold of that, you can.
I'll put a link in the show notes and that for that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you contact that, and I might get back to you. Yeah, if you're looking for any like fitness work or martial arts, or you want to come down to Neon, we're always welcome anyone come and train. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Is there any other things that you'd like to get in or share before we finish off?
Yeah, I would say this: longevity in the sports. Okay. Right, and I think this is really, really important. Right, okay. Now, if you've got injuries, okay, all right, stop. Okay, don't completely stop, but work around it. But don't carry on like you haven't got the injury, because if you make that injury really bad, you might not come back properly. Okay, so for me, I'm 52. I've been on the mat since I was 7.5 years old. You can work the maths out. Okay, right. And if I've been injured, okay, I kind of stop, I let myself heal properly, then I carry on again. So I would say to anyone, if you get injured, okay, get some decent recovery, okay, then carry back on, because if you don't, you might not come back. Anyone who wants to get into the sport, okay, right, find a local club, okay, get yourself onto I would say a beginner's class, okay, to avoid injury. Okay, so I mean, if you get chucked into the deep end, Okay, especially if you as you're getting older, okay, and your body doesn't move as well as what it was when you're in your 20s. Okay, right, you just got to take it nice and easy. Okay, take it easy. Okay, so you don't get injured. I think injury is one of these things which is one of these things that you will get. Okay, if you're not careful, you need to really look after your body, especially doing like martial arts and stuff. Definitely.
Okay. Well, that's brilliant and some very wise words there at the end. So I'd like to thank you for joining us on this episode. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure to have you on. So thank you very much, sir.
Brett, thanks for having me. And I will catch up with you soon at training.
Yes, you will. Right. Big thank you once again to Trevor Birmingham for joining us for episode 15 of the Grappling Ride podcast. I've been your host, Brett Summers. In the meantime, you can stay up to date with us on our social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and some of the other ones. If you want to check out our main website, thegrapplerride.com, you'll find all our past episodes and information on there. If podcasts are your thing, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the other podcast apps that are out there. If you give us a review and a like, etc., that would be really, really appreciated. And if you like watching things, then why not head over to our YouTube channel where you can subscribe and enable notifications to see all our latest videos and the things that we're up to and our shorts. Yeah, I know, we got shorts now. So anyway, that brings this episode to an end. We'll be back next week with another guest. So until then, stay safe and stay on the mats.